What's up, everybody? Jordan Miller here with the Live Beyond Average podcast, and the title reads, Hey, we are shutting down our business. So that might be a little misleading, that might be a little clickbaitish. What most of you don't know is that I own multiple businesses. My main business now is Run to Gun. That's definitely my main focus. But my entrepreneurship journey started a long time ago. I just turned 30 years old this year. But I have been doing business things and entrepreneurship things since I was a little kid, as long as I can remember. So when I was really little, I remember being with my mom, and she would let me count the money in her purse, which probably wasn't that much at the time. But I would love to count the money in her purse and keep track. I was basically a little accountant. We'd go to the grocery store and she'd buy her things, and I'd look up at the till, and I would see the amount, and I would minus that amount off of what I knew her total was. I always had a running tally of money that she had in her purse. I loved looking at pricing of candy bars and things like that on, how could they structure it, buy two, get one free, things like that, or, why things were priced at 65 cents. Things like that just always caught my eye and made me really wonder. And so growing up, I loved those kind of things, and my dad really helped me along the way with these things too. My dad was a motel owner, as I was growing up, and they built a new hotel when I was in mid-grade school. And when I was in 6th grade, one day we were all sitting around, me and my brother is 3.5, 4 years younger than I am, and we were sitting around one night, and my dad was talking to us, and he goes, "Hey guys, what at our hotel, don't we have that we always do when we travel or go to another hotel?" And I was like, we were sitting around, "I don't know, go swimming." And Dad's like, no, you're missing the point. Like, the new hotel had a swimming pool in it. And he's like, "That's not it." And I was like, "Oh, a candy machine." And Dad was like, "Exactly. Our hotel didn't have that. We had pop machines, but we didn't have a vending machine." And so right away, I had such interest in things like that I wanted to buy it. But, I was like, "How are we going to buy this thing?" And Dad's like, "Hey, you got to figure it out." And he wasn't just going to give us the money to go buy this vending machine, nor would we have the money just to go up and buy it. And so my dad explained the different ways that you can get money to start businesses. And so he walked us down to the bank one day. My brother was in 2nd grade, I was in 6th grade. And we go to the bank, and walked in, we sit down with the banker, and as a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, we sat there and explained to the banker why we wanted to have a loan to buy this candy machine, and that we could make money on it, and what if things went south, would you guys be able to pay for it? And yep, I'll work for my dad and make money, and I'll make the loan payment myself if I have to. So all these different things that were starting so young. And so the banker ended up giving us a loan. If I remember right, it was for $3,800. This was back in the year 2000. I was in 6th grade, about 12 years old. We go out to Rapid City, South Dakota, and we buy a vending machine, and we put it in our hotel. We buy inventory for it, and I'm sitting up there, and now I get to actually start implementing all these things I've been watching since I was little, price structure, things like that. All these really cool things that just came natural to me that I love to notice now that I got to start implementing, and I really got to start learning. And those are the great things that this simple little candy machine taught me at such a young age. I was going to film this whole thing in front of the candy machine. I just didn't have time back home at the hotel. This one right here, pretty awesome. This thing is 18 years old and finally just stopped running. Can't really get parts for it anymore because it's so old. So we're just going to hang it up and not replace it. Really cool. We made money throughout it for 18 years. We made a little bit of money on this thing, and it was a really neat experience. So one of the great things I got to learn from this candy machine were simple things like price structure that I get to utilize now in other parts of my business. So back then, it was pricing things in my mind to, okay, if people are putting money into my candy machine and they're getting money back, it just didn't make sense to me. So, if I had popcorn priced for $1, I'd sell it all day. And at one point, I would sit down with all my candy. I'd look at how many candy bars or popcorn bags, how many units were in that box, and then how much that whole total box cost, and if I sold each unit for how much I would make. And I'd sit down and I would do the math. Okay, So it's going to cost me X amount a month for the candy, and then I'm going to bring in this amount a month per sales. And it just wasn't enough to make a loan payment and make a little money, or maybe buy another candy machine for another hotel. And so I really started to learn about how to price structure. So then that came into raising prices where people would still buy my candy. So I would raise, let's say, the popcorn to $1.50, but I did it for a week, and I'm sitting down there in the living room at the house, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, if somebody buys my popcorn for $1.50, sales didn't go down from $1.50 to from $1, and they're getting 50 cents back, they're willing to put $2 in the machine. And so in my mind, it just did not make sense that, okay, somebody's going to put $2 in the machine to buy the candy, to buy the popcorn, only to get 50 cents back out of my own machine. And so I'm like, I'm going to test something, and I raised prices to $2 on the bag of popcorn, because I didn't want to see that 50 cents leave my machine if somebody's already willing to put $2 in there for it. Lo and behold, sales didn't go down at all. And so I really started to learn how people's minds work when it went to buying my products, and how I can maximize my profit at a very young age. And it just made sense to me. It was a great learning experience. From there, what's another great thing I got to learn was about cash flow, right? If it costs me this much to buy all my product, to make my loan payment, and then to maybe pay me, my brother, something, I really had to figure out that cash flow, when money was coming in, when money was going out. So a great thing to learn at a young age, because it can be a tough mindset and a tough thing to wrap your head around. And I've seen it with helping other retail stores in the last year that I've got to experience, which is kind of a little bit of consulting. And I've really got to witness the struggles that people deal with cash flow. So the simplicity of this that my dad just foresaw and knew that would help me and my brother and help us understand the business world a little bit better was just phenomenal. And I'm so thankful for that. It's pretty neat to be able to understand those things and for it to start coming so natural. And so two great things I got to learn about there. Another great thing was just responsibility and a sense of pride in what I owned. And so I was so driven to pay that loan back fast, way faster than what we had. I believe it was a 3-year loan on that $3,800, and I'm pretty sure we paid it back in about 18 to 20 months, because we just didn't keep any of the money. We literally just, everything we made, we put right back into either product or making payments on that. We just, what a great concept there to learn is that, even now, in my own businesses now, I still utilize putting money that I could make right back into the business for growth. So always putting the business first, the customers first, the business first, before your own personal wants and needs. We're just absolutely huge to learn that at 12 years old and 13 years old and just really figure that out. And that just ties right back into, I mentioned that responsibility factor and that being very dedicated to something. We talk so much about sport and training and fitness doing that, but I really learned much of those things that applied into the fitness and training from owning my own business at such a young age and being dedicated to something, making sure that if we were going to be gone, that my candy machine was always filled, that I was making those payments on time, that I was getting out. I had to figure out, I'm from a town of 500, there's no buying inventory in town. I can't just go buy a box of Snickers at a lower cost. So I would have to travel 2.5 or 3 hours to Rapid City in order just to buy candy. I could go up to Pier, which is about an hour away, and get candy, but the price was so much more versus being able to go into a Sam's Club. And I went into Sam's Club at 12 years old and got my own membership and got a credit card. And me and my brother were 12-year-olds with a credit card, buying candy because I found that it was the best price that I could buy, which means I made more money per unit. And so just learning how to maximize little things in business and how it taught me how to adapt. It taught me that responsibility, and then it taught me how to adapt when I needed to make more money. How could I price structure things differently and adapt my business in order to maximize my profit? So so much thankfulness and a huge gratefulness for my dad to to see those things and to give us that opportunity and to really help us and guide us along that way and pass down that torch of entrepreneurship. And even though we have it, come naturally, there's still things that are always, you have to learn. Not everything just comes natural. And so grateful that I had my dad to help push and nudge along that way, because he knew and he could see that there was some natural things there, and help give us that ability to learn along the way with something so simple as just a silly candy machine, but something so important and so satisfying to us that made us feel so great, which leads into the last thing. It just built such a huge amount of confidence for us. What better confidence builder than being a kid in his preteens and teens, running his own business and being able to talk about it with his friends and be so proud of it, and have his friends come over and buy candy out of their candy machine when they're playing at my house, and I'm making money off of my friends per se. It was never, where you're just trying to get rich off your friends, but I was so proud that when a friend put $1 in my machine to buy a Snickers, how cool that was and how great that felt, and that my friends thought it was so neat as well. So such a huge confidence builder for us going into teens, that preteen and teen age, and just wow, pretty dang cool. So there's a little backstory, you guys, into the beginning of my entrepreneurship and business, and just some cool things that if you see an opportunity in your own life like that you can grasp, because you've been sensing an urge to go do something, whether it be in business or your health or your fitness or just a trip that you want to take, is to, I hope that you just take that step and do it like my dad saw that in us and was able to help us take that step and do it. Or if you have kids that you see that in them and they want to take that step, and you're not forcing them out of your own wants for them, but out of their own wants for themselves, that you help guide them and help give them a little push and encouragement to build that excitement and self-confidence in their life or your own life. So there it is, guys, today's episode of the Live Beyond Average podcast. Thank you so much for joining in and listening to a little bit of my story. I know that some of these things can really help you or help somebody that you may know. So please like it, share it, and let me know what you thought.